What's going on YouTube? Cloverbells here, back with another video, and today we're continuing our VGC Spotlight series where we talk about each of the new Pokemon and discuss how they can be used in competitive play while giving you some ideas for potential move sets, potential EV sets, certain item choices, and maybe a couple of ideas in terms of team composition. Now, again, just to remind you guys that this is for doubles, not singles or not like Smogon or anything like that. This is specifically for VGC doubles. Just in case you're a new viewer, but yeah, just as a reminder here. So we're going to be covering the 3 starters, but that'll be 3 separate videos, and the first one here is we're going to be covering Skeledirge, right? So Skeledirge is the fire starter for Generation 9, right? And now in terms of like how we're going to use it, so this is what we're going to be talking about first in terms of the stats. So for Skeledirge, let's take a look at the bulk here, and you can see that it's actually very bulky with well, actually I wouldn't say that. It's got a above average bulk, I should say, right? So base HP 104, that's pretty good. Base defense 100, also pretty good. Special defense base 75, not terrible but not great either, right? So it's just like average, right? So, and then you look at the speed where it's like at 66. So first thing that I'm thinking about is, all right, so this is a pretty bulky Pokemon, base 110 special attack, so that's pretty solid. All right, not like amazing, but you know, it's solid. It's very good. And I like that, you know, it has like a poor attack stat, so this way you don't consider like wasted stats in that category. So this is primarily a special attacker that's relatively bulky, but also kind of slow, right? But the thing is, look at this base speed here, 66. You know, it's one of those speed tiers where it's like, you know, it's not quite fast at all. It's slow, but it's not like too slow where you can outspeed some of like the big slower threats in like a Trick Room team, right? So this is what we call one of those awkward speed tiers, like anything from like base 60 all the way to like 85 or something like that. This is what I call like the awkward mid speed tier, right? Where you're just not fast enough to be considered fast, and you're too fast to be slow. Right, in a Trick Room team, right? But either way, you know, you can still put this on like a potential Trick Room team, and you're gonna be relying on your bulk a lot, just to like be able to take hits and then just deal damage right back, right? So that's what I'm thinking right away when I look at these stats here. It's got Fire Ghost typing, so you know, if you consider some old Pokemon like maybe like a Chandelure, that was a Fire Ghost typing, all right? Or if you even considered the newer one, not Armarouge, the other one, Ceruledge. All right, this is another Fire Ghost. Actually, I would probably just use this thing over the Fire Starter, but that's a conversation for another day. But now we have this thing, the Skeledirge, you know, Fire Ghost typing. Okay, so right away now I'm thinking about, okay, who is a big threat to Skeledirge in terms of like trying to KO it? Well, I'm already thinking Dragapult, because if you go into the speed tier here, so again, besides Electro, Dragapult is like the baseline here. So I don't want to be taking a Phantom Force here, so Dragapult is a threat, which makes me think, okay, maybe I might make a Terrestrialized Dark typing for Skeledirge, and maybe give it a Dark move to counter Dragapult for that reason. But other than that, you know, you got to consider the Dark threats, and there's a lot of Dark type Pokemon in this game. You know, it's surprising. This is like Rise of the Dark Avengers or something like that, because there is just so much Darks. Like Qianpao, another one, right? Dark Ice, so another thing you have to be aware of. But then again, you are a Fire type, so you can also maybe even take that hit and then just KO it right back, because Qianpao is not very bulky. Flutter Mane is another thing you have to consider being worried about a little bit. You know, it is a Ghost type, and it does do a lot of damage, and in terms of the special attack stat, which is something that we suffer with in terms of special defense, so that has to be considered. And then Weavile, another thing with Dark type. Meowscarada, which is again coming in the next video, or even the video afterwards. Again, Dark type with Protean, very strong, 110 base attack. Roaring Moon, we just covered in another video. Again, another Dark type that you have to be worried about. These are all the fast Dark types that we have to, like, you know, be aware of. You know, we keep going down the list here. Even Gengar can be considered something, right? Iron Jugulis, another one. You know, very good speed stat, very good special attack stat, another threat. Zoroark, I guess, a little bit to an extent. But, you know, as I'm going down this list, You know, a lot of dark types that we got to be aware of. Hydreigon, another one. You know, Houndoom. Well, I don't know about Houndoom actually in terms of competitive play, but you get the idea here. And now we start going to like the bulky, slower dark types. Something like Crocodile could be a thing. Murkrow with Tailwind, Foul Play sets. That's also something to consider. You know, I wouldn't say like a threat, but something to watch out for. But again, here's Skeledirge. You know, you'll be able to outspeed it, and then the new Intimidate dog, this thing, you know, also something to consider. And then Tyranitar, right? If I'm just gonna like fast forward here just a little bit, I'm gonna go all the way down to something like Tyranitar, and then Tyranitar is like a little bit slower, so that's the good news. We can outspeed T-Tar, because I don't want to be taking a dark move from Tyranitar. Wolchien, this is the other one I was looking for. This is another one of the 4 legendaries, another dark type that we got to be aware of, but it doesn't really have a strong like attack or special attack stat, so maybe not. Bisharp, another one. So yeah, now we're in like this speed tier. This is where we see Skeledirge, and you know, Tyranitar's coming up here in a second, because you know, just T-Tar is just a big threat here. Yeah, T-Tar again. You know, at least we're able to outspeed it. So what are we getting so far? So good special attacker, decent bulk, right? Solid bulk, I should say. Just watch out for the dark types, right? So now what we can do is start thinking about potential movesets and item choices that we want to help Skeledirge, you know, not only do well for itself, but something to be able to at least counterplay some of the dark types that's in the meta. So let's take a look now at some of those sets. Okay, so right away what I'm thinking about with Skeledirge is, first of all, this ability, Unaware, not Blaze, but Unaware is actually a really, really good ability, because if you read what it does, in case you're not familiar, you ignore other stat stages when taking or doing damage. That's important, right? So because of that, it's actually a pretty good option. Like, this is a very good ability to have, especially in VGC doubles, when you can ignore those stat stages. So if anything is like +1, you know, or +2, you know, you kind of just not care about that. So that's pretty good for us for that reason. Now, of course, we're gonna have a fire stab move. We're gonna have a ghost stab move in terms of what we want to do with Skeledirge. But of course, we're gonna be looking for special attacks, not physical attacks, because you know, we're a special attacker. So let's just go down this list here. So not Crunch. Crunch is physical. That's a dark type for a move, first of all. All right, Hex is an interesting move. We're going to use that in a different set, but this is something to also consider if you want to use Skeledirge with the Hex set. And then over here, okay, Shadow Ball. This is the one that's like your single target ghost move. This is the one that's you're going to be benefiting off of. And I'm just going to go straight to its target move, Torch Song. This is its special move. Where its signature move, I should say, where you're able to raise your special attack by +1, all right, when you click this move. So it's 80 base power. So originally, okay, not too bad, but then after that +1, now it starts hitting hard. So after a Torch Song, your own Torch Song starts hitting harder next turn, and now you have a stronger Shadow Ball. So that's actually really, really nice, and that's how you want to play Skeledirge, right? To be able to get these special attack boosts and then just hit hard, and also like survive with your extra bulky piece, right? So then from here, honestly, you can just put Protect in the last slot, and then you can even go with like a Life Orb set just to deal like extra damage here. And I think that's really, really solid. Now, in terms of what you want to put for another third move here, you could do, there's a couple things you could do. You could do something like Heat Wave, right? Because again, this is a doubles format where now after a Torch Song, now your Heat Wave, along with Life Orb, hits hard with a +1. Like, this thing could like just sweep after even maybe just a +1 Torch Song. So that's really, really nice if you can get +1 Heat Waves off. So that's another thing you can consider. You can even opt for something like a Terra Dark Snarl set, right? So that's also really, really nice, where you can like terrestrialize into this thing. Where are you? Yeah, Terra Dark. And now you have Shadow Balls, Torch Song, and then you have +1 Snarls. That's actually really, really nice. And then you get your dark typing, you know, just so that you don't have to like take a Dragon Bolt hit, for example, or another one of those dark type moves. But yeah, so something like this. But for now, I'll just put Heat Wave, and I'll put Snarl in a second set. But how would you try and EV this thing, right, in terms of a set? So here's what I'm thinking. You could do this. So basically, we're just gonna be like super slow, and not like min speed slow, because we still want to outspeed certain things. But I'm just gonna put 1 point in the speed here. but just go modest nature, of course, because, you know, we're a special attacker. And then, you know, if you want to just deal like optimal damage, right, and then still optimize your life orb chip, so this is what I would do. First of all, 179 is already optimal for life orb chip, by the way. So, you know, if you do 179 divided by 10, all right, that's already 17.9, which rounds down to 17 damage per life orb tick per turn. But again, we want to add more HP than this because we want to be a bulky special attack, right? So what you can do is do something like this, where instead of going from 179, you could go to 189. All right, but again, still, I want a little bit more bulk than that. So I'm just going to go to 199, right? And this will be optimal for life orb chip, where, you know, 199 divided by 10, 19.9, which rounds down to 19 damage per turn. Again, if I cross the threshold like this, if I go to 200, now I'm taking 20 damage per turn. Why am I taking one extra HP damage per turn when I can just take 19 damage per turn by just doing this, right? So then from here, you know, because I'm getting like Torch Song boost, like I don't necessarily need to max out my special attack. But if you are someone that, you know, you just want to deal as much damage as possible while still having like, you know, some bulk here, then what I would do is just go to the third EV bump in the special attack nature. And again, the easy way to think of the EV bumps, again, it's a point in the stat where you get +2 to your stat rather than +1. Let me scratch that, where you're getting one extra stat versus just only a one stat boost, right? So for example, here you go. If I move the slider, I go to 144, 145, 146, 147, 148. Everything is going up by one stat. 149, 150, 151, 152, now 154. Here it is. Here's the first EV bump. And again, we've done a lot of this back in our Sword and Shield videos. But again, there's probably going to be like some new viewers from Scarlet and Violet. So now we have to just explain what EV bumps are. But yeah, you see how you went from 152 to 154. You went up by 2 stats instead of just 1. This is what we call an EV bump. And again, if you want to know more about it, just comment in the video description below, and I'll be explaining more about what EV bumps are. But this is the first bump in the modest nature. So 76 investment hits you to that first bump. And then another 80 EVs investment will get you to the second bump, where it'll again go up by +2. So let's just show that one by one slowly. 155, 156, 157, 158, 159, 160, 161, 162, 163, and then 165. So here's the second bump here. You see how you skipped 164 and went to 165. So this is another bump in the modest nature. And then if you want to go to that third bump, again, another 80 EVs. So what's 156 plus 80? It's 236. So I'll just show you that real quick. So right here, 228, and then another investment. Right now you go to 176. So you went from 174, 176. There's that third bump there. And you can see it's almost max special attack here. And now if you really want, you can just max it out like this. That's up to you, but you know, I'm just fine with this third bump here. This extra bit of special attack doesn't really make a huge difference, and I'd rather just put it in my extra bulk here. So I already have a good defense stat, so I just need 1 point here, so that's okay there. When the damage calc comes out, when it's updated, I can update where like I can maybe survive something like a dark type move, or maybe like a Tyranitar move or a Dragapult move. These are all physical attackers, but for now 1 point in the defense is enough, and then the rest can just go in special defense like this, right? Because 75 is a little below, but now that we have 108 investment, now we can bring up this special defense stat to a more respectable number, and now you're just a bulky, hard-hitting Skeledirge, right, with a life orb set. So that's one type of way you can try and build this. And again, if you want to do a little less special attack but a little bit more bulk, so then what you do is you just play with the modest nature bar, and then you just add more to your HP stat, for example. So let me just recopy this move. So I can just go to the second bump here, where I go to 156, all right, and then now I have 80 more EVs to play with. So then I can just go up to 209, for example, like this, and there it is, right? So now I have much more HP bulk, a little less in the special attack, but again, I have a lot more bulk where I can take more hits and deal more damage and stay on the field for a little bit longer. So 2 ways to consider, you know, with your EV sets here: a little bit more special attack, a little less bulk, or the other way where you have a little less special attack and more bulk, right? So that's what I would do here in terms of life orb sets. And again, if you like Heat Wave, great. Or if you rather have the Terra Dark Snarl set, you know, where you're dealing a sound move. Well, I'll get to that in a second, actually. This is also something to consider, right? Because you can neuter other special attackers, and now you can be like a hard-hitting supportive mon, you know, to an extent, right? With Snarl, so that's also really, really nice. But yeah, this is a Life Orb set. But now what I'm also going to show you is this, another type of set where you can be a supportive set. Okay, so there's another way you can consider using Skeledirge, but still also be hard-hitting. And also you have to consider this. Torch Song is a sound-based move, and let's say you have something else on your team that already has a Life Orb. What am I going to be doing for damage? So what you can do is run this move called Throat Spray, run this item called Throat Spray, and now Torch Song. Again, now you get a +1 boost for using a sound-based move, and then you're also getting a +1 because you know that's what Torch Song does, right? So +1 for Throat Spray, and then another +1 from Torch Song, so +2. And for that reason, I maybe don't need to invest so much in my special attack stat anymore. Maybe I can invest a little bit, but then put more in the bulk. So this way, again, I can stay on the field and deal more damage, right? So all things considered, once again, I'm going to go Modest Nature. Don't really need that much speed. I can just do the first bump now this time. I can just do 76 investment, right? So here's the first EV bump. And again, because of the Throat Spray and the Torch Song, I'm probably going to be, you know, overkilling a lot of things anyway to a degree. So, you know, I just don't need that much special attack. I rather invest in my bulk. And then from here, what you can do is just, now you have a lot more EVs. And now what you can do is something like this, where you can go to 207. Okay. And what this does, 207 is another VGC trademark HP number, because this will optimize weather damage from either, you know, the sand chip or the hail chip damage, you know, because everything is 1/16 of your max HP. So if you take out your trusty calculator, and if you do 207 divided by 16, that'll get you to 12.9375, which rounds down to 12 damage per turn. Again, if I break the threshold and go to 208, now I'm taking 13 damage per turn from the weather damage. Why am I taking extra HP when I don't need to do that? So I'm just going to undercut the threshold and go to 207, right? So then from here, look, I got 208 more EVs left to play with. How do I want to do this? So what you can do is just something like this, where you can just honestly split it and just go 108 EVs, you know, just to start, and 100 EVs in special defense. You can break it up like this, you know, until we have the damage calculator. I don't have any like specific calc for all this defense in terms of maybe I want to live a Dragapult or a Tyranitar, or maybe from something else that's a physical dark type. I don't have the calculator at the moment. It's not updated, so you can just break up the bulk this way. But again, you can also, you know, reduce some of your bulk and invest more in special defense. So you're more than welcome to do that. But in terms of a move set here, this is what I'm talking about. You could do like a Hex Will-O-Wisp set, right? So what this does, Hex, is, you know, you get double the damage if you have a status ailment, right? So if you click Will-O-Wisp, right, and then you burn them, now your Hex does a lot more damage. And then even after a Torch Song, now you have stronger, harder hitting Hexes after Will-O-Wisp. So that's also really, really nice. And then this Pokemon also gets this move, something called Slack Off here. So if you want to keep Snarl, you can, but like Slack Off is a great recovery move, because you can recover 50% of your max HP. So if you're gonna go Slack Off, then what I would do is just take 1 point here and just go to 208. So this way it's a nice even number in terms of 50% of your max HP, right? Because if you have 207, you're gonna get a decimal. All right, you don't really want that. So then you just go to 208. So this way you get a nice even number. So this way your Slack Off is a little bit more optimal, right? So you can do this if you want, or if you rather just keep the Snarl, you know, another sound-based move, I believe, right? So then you just do this, where you can just put one less here and then just go back here to 108, right? So either way, it works. So you got a Life Orb set, you got a Throat Spray, a supportive set, where if the Life Orb is not available. And honestly, if you prefer the Throat Spray here instead of the Life Orb, you can do that too. Like you just have a lot more special attack, you keep all this bulk, instead of the Life Orb you put in a Throat Spray. That's also fine too, okay? And then again, you just have to re-optimize these EVs just a little bit. Honestly, you just do something like this, and then maybe just put a little more in the attack stat, right? Something like this, right? Very, very minuscule differences But if you rather do that, that's also welcome. But I'll put the life orb back here. But yeah, again, another way to deal damage with Skeledirge. Another set, a bulky supportive set where you're not really investing so much in your special attack because you have a throat spray. And again, instead of Snarl, if you rather have Slack Off for the recovery, for the end game potential, that is also available. But then I'll show you another set where it's almost the same, but instead of the throat spray, you just have like a complete recovery set where you do something like this. So instead of like a throat spray, you just have a recovery berry, like maybe a citrus berry or a wiki berry or whatever berry that lets you recover health. If you want to play Skeledirge that way, that's also fine. So then honestly, you just do something like this where you take a little bit away from your HP stat, and then you can just honestly just leave it like this and then just invest more in your special defense. But yeah, like I just want the even number here to optimize the citrus berry recovery. And again, just read the berry that you're using. So if you know that it's taking a certain HP percentage, make sure that your max HP number will give you that whole number percentage rather than a decimal, because if it's going to be a decimal, it's going to round it down, so it's not optimal. So you always want that optimal whole number to optimize the recovery, right? So you could do something like this where you get a berry recovery set. Again, it doesn't have to be citrus berry. It could be any of the other berries, like a wiki berry, for example, or whatever kind of recovery berry you want to use. But I think this is also fine. But yeah, so you see the idea here with Skeledirge. Your job is to be a special attack, sweeper that's very, very bulky, and then that can take a couple hits, or you can be that supportive set with like Will-O-Wisp and Snarl, and then just rely on your recovery with Slack Off, and then just be a hex machine. But yeah, either way, I feel like those are the two ways you want to play it, either the offensive way or the supportive with semi-offense, right? So that's what I think you can do with Skeledirge as far as these sets are concerned. So yeah, and then now what you have to think about is, all right, what kind of team can Skeledirge be put on, right? So I'll give you a couple ideas. It's nothing too fancy, but I'll just mention a couple things. So let's take a look at that in terms of team composition. Okay, so in terms of what I want to put Skeledirge on, I'm already thinking of like a Trick Room team, and that's one thing, right? Because I want to be able to utilize this low speed stat and be able to go first against some of the big sweepers that are fast in the meta. So if I can put this on a Trick Room team, then that's already pretty good, right? I also want to consider maybe putting it next to a fairy option on the team. So something like either Gardevoir or maybe even like a Hatterene. So that also kind of benefits me in a way, because then I can just do something like Indeedee, right? And then I can do something like Hatterene, right? And then have Skeledirge in the back. So I can click Redirection would follow me, and then Hatterene can do something like Trick Room. Okay, oh, that's Trick. And then Hatterene ideally would have like a Life Orb, it's just so that you can deal a lot of damage with something like Dazzling Gleam or even Moonblast. And then instead of putting the Life Orb here on Skeledirge, you probably put Throat Spray instead. So this way you still deal damage, with Skeledirge here. But I would do something like this with Indeedee, Hatterene, and then Skeledirge in the back once they kill the Indeedee, and then you're able to get it in under a Trick Room. The other thing I would consider is like an Intimidate Mon on the team, because the dark types that are physical hitters, you want to be able to mitigate some of that damage. So a couple things you could do is maybe something like Gyarados, for example. So Gyarados is not too bad either, where you're able to get off those intimidates, and Water Flying is pretty good typing in general here too, right? So Skeledirge, maybe with something like Arcanine or Gyarados, I think that's also really, really nice in terms of partnering it with something. Maybe another fighting type, right? Because if dark types are going to be Skeledirge's enemy, then maybe you want like another slow or maybe even a fast fighting type option. But again, you've got something like Iron Hands here. Where is it? Yeah, this is a good one, where it's just a very slow Pokemon that also thrives under Trick Room, and then you have like access to close combat, so you're able to knock out those big dark types right away with something like this, because they can't really take fighting moves all that well. So this is also really, really nice in terms of what you want to partner it with. And then now you can also add the Gyarados for the Intimidate support, and then this is like a decent core, right? Like just like off starters. And then from there, you could just add some other option, maybe another sweeper, maybe another redirector, maybe even like a Mungus. Yeah, maybe even that. Well, you already have Indeedee, right? So But either way, just giving you some options here in terms of this. You can even partner instead of like Hatterene for a fairy type. You could even do like Sylveon, right? This is also another good Pokemon that does well under Trick Room. So maybe you have another Trick Room setter besides Hatterene, and then you use Sylveon as your offensive fairy option. And then because this thing has Pixelate with Pixie Plate, now you can put the Life Orb back on Skeledirge instead of the Throat Spray, and then, you know, just mixing and matching. But yeah, these are other ideas that you can consider. Gardevoir is another one, right? Because now you have telepathy stuff, and then you can put this next to like something with Earthquake, you know, for example, that could, you know, deal some damage here. But again, you can ignore it because you have telepathy. But yeah, another good strong fairy option that will, when you do Terra Fairy, can like really punish those dark types. So yeah, that's another option there. So that's what you have to consider. Like, either I put this on a Trick Room team, I give it Intimidate support, and then I want a fairy option with Skeledirge, right, to be able to combat those dark types, and maybe even a fighting type like Iron Hands as well, for that same reason, you know, just like that, right? So that's gonna be it for this video. Again, so just to sum it up with Skeledirge, you know, bulky fire ghost type, you know, that can deal a lot of damage with Life Orb, especially after one Torch Song. You just have to be aware of the dark types that's running around in the meta, right? So yeah, let me know what you think of what we said about Skeledirge. And again, we're going to cover the other two starters in the next two videos, Meowscarada and Quaquaval, right? So stay tuned for those. And again, don't forget to check us out on Twitch. We're streaming our gameplay, you know, because we're still going through the story. And don't forget to join the Discord, where we'll talk more things competitive. It's another way to interact with me as well as the other people that we have on Discord. So definitely join the Discord. It's in the video description as far as the link is concerned. And yeah, we'll be back with another video in the next time, guys. Peace out. Have a good one.